Delmarva Today with Don Rush.
There's a hot mayor's race in Ocean City. We'll take an in-depth look at the race later in the program. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We'll talk with a survivor. And Salisbury University is holding a series of election forums as the nation begins casting ballots across the country. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. In our studio this afternoon is Coastal Point reporter Susan Canfor. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Don.
So, Susan, we have this fairly hot election going on in Ocean City, pitting the longtime mayor and incumbent Rick Meehan against the newcomer Peter Buis. And some expect it actually to be close. Here's what Steve Green with OC Today Dispatch had to say.
It appears, while they won't come out publicly, Buis has the support of the majority of the members of the Ocean City Council for his bid for mayor. Buis, he's being pressed here to explain why the current council supports him, and the current council members have not come out and issued any sort of public, endorsement for him. But that says a lot, though, in the fact that he has the support of the current council. So you remember, he's a first-term councilman. His term is up this year, and instead of running for re-election for council, he opted to take the risk of running against Meehan for mayor. So if he loses to Meehan, he's out of politics. So it's a very fascinating matchup. I think that we'll consider Meehan, if you handicap it, the favorite going in, but this is going to be close.
And, of course, the candidates did have a debate last week. Susan, what do we know about that debate?
Well, we know that in Ocean City, the longtime mayor, Rick Meehan, is being challenged by Peter Buis. Meehan was first elected in 2006, and he's been on the town council since 1985. The last time he had a competitor was in 2018, and that's when Joe Hall, a former council member, ran against him. Meehan and Buis answered questions and talked about their goals at a recent forum hosted by the firefighters and paramedics before their November 5th election. Buis was talking about growing up in Ocean City and running for that top seat because he thinks current town leaders have a stagnant relationship with state and county officials. He said a fresh perspective and a fresh approach are needed, as well as a new face, and he suggested that face be his face. Mayor Meehan, though, said Ocean City is great, a fabulous place, that the beach renourishment project has prevented damage along the oceanfront, and he wants to be part of the future of Ocean City and continue to be mayor. Both candidates oppose offshore wind, and both of them agree that the term of mayor should remain at 2 years and not be increased to 4 years. Candidates for town council also spoke at that forum. They are Tony DeLuca, Tony DeSanctis, John Gehrig, Dennis Bubba Jenkins, George Lucal, Jake Matrisic, and Larry Yates. They talked about tourism and the many events that draw thousands of visitors to town and whether or not there is any room left for the town to grow. And of course, they talked about tourism, with Jenkins saying Ocean City residents don't like all the traffic and noise that comes with special events. Even so, he said, it is important to make sure businesses are prosperous, so the answer is balance and a common sense approach. Lucal said when it comes to tourism, the concentration should be on the off-season, bringing more people to town in the winter and early spring before that busy summer season starts. The candidates are also talking about building a sports complex, with Gehrig liking the idea and DeLuca calling for a big complex. If they're going to have one, he said, it should be big. The election is on November 5th, and we will bring you the results of that election.
Now, we also have some forums here on the campus of Salisbury University. They're going to be put on by the Institute for Public Affairs and Civic Engagement, running up to the election next month. And we talked with Joshua Bolton. He's a professor of communications and director of SU Vote, about the turnout among college students.
Many students, especially at the college level, this is their first election that they get to participate in and elect a president. And so those that are interested, there's usually a lot of excitement that builds around that, and turnout then is high because of that. As we've seen in the last few elections, especially as students get more interested in the process and more engaged, they participate at higher levels. And the last couple of presidential elections have had some of the highest turnouts in terms of college student voting that we've had.
Joshua Bolton, he's professor of communications and director of SU Vote. Again, the university is set to hold 2 forums on the elections before the vote next month. And speaking of elections, Susan, we are having one in Cambridge.
There was a preliminary election for the mayor of Cambridge, and that was close, but in the end, none of the 3 candidates got 50% or more of the vote. So the finalists, LaJean Cephas and Andrew Bradshaw, will compete for that top seat at the December 3rd election. When residents voted on October 19th, Cephas received 637 votes and Bradshaw finished with 614. Former City Commissioner LaShawn Foster finished third with 247 votes. Cephas released a comment saying most of the voters want to move forward under my leadership and that he believes what he offers, a vision for a unified Cambridge, is what they're looking for. He said he's confident he will get more than 50% of the vote in the December election. Bradshaw called that upcoming election energetic. That's what he's projecting. He said voters are going to be able to compare and contrast the policy positions and vision that each candidate has for the future of Cambridge. And they will choose him, he said, because he offers the best path for the future of the town. That election is December 3rd, and we'll bring you results of that one as well.
Also, returning to Ocean City, there's this prospect that perhaps the trams will not run again on the boardwalk after that accident. What do we know about that?
Well, you remember in August, the community was shocked when the little boy, 2-year-old little boy, whose name has not been released, was killed by a tram on the Ocean City boardwalk. That was right near Dorchester Street. He was running west from the beach onto the boardwalk, and the tram was going south and hit him, and he died. Since then, trams have not been running on the boardwalk at all, and they won't be at the popular Winterfest of Lights at Northside Park this year either. It isn't even certain that they'll come back to the boardwalk next year. Ocean City manager Terry McGeehan has said the investigation into the accident that killed the little boy is still going on, and there are legal matters still being worked out. So the town council is likely to wait until all of that is settled before they make any decisions. There was a recent Ocean City Transportation Committee meeting, and the head of that committee, Rob Shearman, said bus drivers are being hired and recruited for the busy 2025 tourist season, but nobody is being hired to drive the trams.
Also, in the town of Lewis, they're setting up some tents to shelter some of the homeless, at least for the next few weeks. These along the coastal highway. Who's behind all this?
St. Jude the Apostle Catholic Church is behind this in Lewis, and that's been spearheaded. This initiative has been spearheaded and called Theros to replace 28 tents in Lewis to shelter the homeless, allowing them to live somewhere legally and not be just squatting where they're not allowed. That initiative is the brainchild of Mike Agnew, who organized putting up tents and who said he wanted the homeless to have dignity and a place to live. He chose the name Theros because it's a Greek word for courage and perseverance. The tents are numbered, and the state police have the names of everyone who's living in each one. Those tents will be there until the end of November, and then the homeless will be safe indoors overnight through Code Purple at the Cape. That's a shelter in Lewis. Agnew worked with volunteers familiar with the homeless who were living in the woods behind the former state police barrack. The volunteers wanted to help them with sanitation as well as giving them dignity. So Agnew asked about putting portable toilets and dumpsters on Coastal Highway. He was required to get a permit from the state before erecting the tents, and he did that for the 28 men and women who were required to agree to abide by certain rules. Now they're out of the woods and living in those tents. Last month, Agnew, working with Code Purple at the Cape, also suggested free storage containers for the homeless, and he's going to continue to work to help them have better lives.
Also in Dorchester County, we're looking at prohibiting students in public schools, at least, from their cell phones. I guess lots of distraction there, I assume. What's behind that push?
Lots of distractions. Students in Dorchester County middle schools will no longer have their phones or their smart watches with them in class, and that's because of a new pilot program that started on Monday this week. All phones and smartwatches belonging to students who attend North Dorchester, Maces Lane, and South Dorchester middle schools will be required to put those devices that tempt them so much during the school day into pouches every morning when they get to homeroom. Reporters have talked to a few parents, grandparents, and students about the program, and the responses have been varied. One grandparent said, well, no student should be playing with his phone in class anyhow. But a student said he and fellow classmates don't do that. They don't use them in class. There's really no reason to put them away. One teacher told a reporter that some parents are telling their children to not go along with the program. Regardless, it is in effect, and that means cell phones and smartwatches owned by teachers and school staff must also be put in the pouches. Those pouches must be locked and can be either stored in lockers or carried with the students as long as they're not opened during the day.
So finally, of course, we couldn't leave without talking about Sunfest. That's coming up this weekend. I expect a big crowd. You've been at these things before. What are we looking at here? Bigger than ever?
I've gone to them for probably 25 or 30 years. I go every year. This is the popular 4-day annual Fall Festival in Ocean City, Sunfest 2024. It's now underway at the Inlet. Sunfest began Thursday morning, and it will continue until 6 p.m. Sunday evening with entertainment, all kinds of arts and crafts and jewelry and clothing on display and sold in big tents and the ever-popular food tent, where delicacies over the years have included chocolate-covered bacon and deep-fried Twinkies. And no, I have not tasted either one of those. They are not for the faint of appetite, I can tell you that. There's no charge to attend Sunfest, but there's plenty to do. This year there are a lot of free musical acts, including All Revved Up. That's a tribute to the singer Meatloaf, who you might remember died in 2022. The Cure tribute, a Van Halen experience, and 20 or so other bands on the stages. For children, there's going to be a beach maze, beach tractor rides, pumpkin races, and Ocean City's Jeep Club having a drive-in, disguise, and Halloween trunk or treat. The police canine dogs will demonstrate their many skills, and the pets can march in a Halloween pet parade. On Saturday, bicycle fans can go to the Show and Shine and Swap Meet, where they can display vintage, modern, or custom bikes. Parking might be a little hard to find, but buses will be running back and forth from the Ocean City Park and Ride just west of the Route 50 bridge and down into downtown Ocean City. So don't miss the annual event and don't miss that food tent.
Well, we're speaking with Coastal Point reporter Susan Canfor. Appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us.
Thank you, Don.
You're listening to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush.
Delmarva Today with Don Rush.